Elliott Shepherd, I mean, he's a gambler, he's an adventurer, he has the misfortune to meet a hoodlum in London's Soho. He gets himself into debt. He can't think about how he's going to pull himself out of debt in this particular context, but he's already got the plan to go off in search of this treasure. Now he figures, I'm going to be very rich, so I'm going to make this guy an offer he can't refuse. And that's where he does make this villain an offer, which buys him the time to be able to pursue his quest and go off in search of his treasure. But he's certainly an adventurer, he's certainly a curious chap, and I think he's also ambitious and not afraid of danger as such. And also he's got an eye for the ladies, and he certainly finds one in the lovely Natalia, whom he meets by pure chance in one of his visits to Sotheby's, and hence you have a connection there with the art world that ties him in with a Colombian drugs baron, and it all sort of leads into all sorts of strange and convoluted subplots, which I hope is what is going to keep the reader reading and interested. Above all, I wanted Elliott to be someone that people could like. I think it was also what motivated me in writing the characters in a certain amount of depth for the earlier people who populate the story in the 1945, 1950s, i.e. Joseph Keating and his friend Edward Hanna. I think that you've got to like the people that you're depicting. You want to make the reader like them and be concerned enough for their well-being to want to keep on reading and finding out what happens to them. And they were the catalyst, after all, for what happens subsequently when Elliott Shepherd comes into the frame. And that was very much at the forefront of my thoughts when writing the plot. I wondered at the beginning whether or not I should keep the plot fairly simple, very much A to B, go and find the treasure, you know, boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, they end up together with the treasure. But I found that as I was writing it, different opportunities presented themselves, and it became interesting to explore what I could do with the characters, and certain characters wrote themselves into the plot all by themselves, and I sort of suddenly found that, oh, here's a chap that sprang up out of nowhere. For instance, the character Wilde, who is a presidential hopeful and a dark horse, very much wrote himself. I wasn't really fully expecting him to be there, but suddenly there he was, and of course I had to deal with him. And in dealing with him, I suddenly found other characters that again seemed to write themselves, and their voices took over to the point that I was not really writing it, more putting down on paper what they were telling me.